I called the police from Alabama, once from the motel room, told them that I felt like I had been used as a mule for trafficking drugs. And I felt like there was drugs in my car and I was being followed and I was in fear for my life.
Welcome to Rebel Chaser. My name is Gail, and this clip comes from a new judge for my channel. His name is Judge Devin Collier, and he is at the 14th Judicial Circuit Court in Florida. He is sentencing a defendant who apparently was in a paranoid state, possibly drug-induced, when she committed this criminal behavior. And for this sentencing, her past catches up to her. As always, let me know what you guys think.
Tracy Skipper.
Ms. Skipper, before you in case 2285, charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and 2296, charged with fleeing or eluding a marked police officer, a third-degree felony. There is no agreement to resolve this case today. Ms. Skipper is going to, the state had previously withdrawn their plea offer. Ms. Skipper is going to plead no contest to those charges. There is no agreement as to the sentence. Ms. Skipper is aware that according to her score sheets guidelines, the lowest permissible sentence is 19.1 months in prison. The maximum allowed sentence is 20 years in prison. And she also understands that there is a mandatory minimum sentence of 3 years if the court makes the finding that she was in actual possession of the firearm at the time of the offense as required by Florida law. That's where we're at.
Okay, Ms. Skipper, you raise your right hand for me.
Yes.
And would you tell me your name, your age, and your highest level of education?
Date of birth 6/7/74, Tracy Skipper, 1 year of college.
Did you hear Mr. Hill's announcement, ma'am, about how we're going to resolve your case? Has anyone promised you anything other than what Mr. Hill just stated?
Yes.
Meaning, other than the minimum and the maximum, you don't have any understanding of what the sentence may be? Is that correct?
I know, yeah, I know there's a wide door there.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
No one suggested to you, hey, the court may do this, or you should get that?
No, sir.
Okay. And are you, is this a guilty plea or no contest? Has anyone threatened you or coerced you in any way?
No, sir.
Are you under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medication, ma'am?
No, sir, just medication.
Okay, what medication are you on?
I'm Boost Bar, but there's other medications that I take that I'm not able to afford right now. But I do have I took my Boost Bar this morning.
Okay, and what is that medication for?
Anxiety.
Does that impair or affect your ability to understand what you're doing this morning?
No, sir.
Okay, you're clear-minded?
It helps me, yes.
Okay. You said it helps you?
Yes.
And it's for anxiety?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You understand by not contesting the charges that you're waiving your right to a trial by jury?
Yes, sir.
And you're waiving your right to, go ahead.
I don't know if how the open plea works, if I'm able to speak freely.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Okay. Just bear with me.
But we're going to get there.
Okay.
You understand that you're waiving your right to appeal anything other than an illegal sentence?
Yes.
And if you're not a U.S. citizen, by entering this plea, it could subject you to deportation?
Yes.
All right. Is the state or defense aware of any DNA that could be exculpatory in this case?
No, Your Honor.
Or these cases?
No, Your Honor.
All right. I've reviewed the arrest report and the information in both cases, Ms. Skipper, and I'm going to accept your plea as not intelligent and voluntarily entered into. Do we need to move forward with sentencing today?
We can move forward, Judge. Ms. Skipper was prepared to address the court. So.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Ms. Skipper.
I have my family with me as well. I don't know if you want to speak to them.
I can.
At the time that I caught the charge, I'm not going to debate whether I was under the influence or not. There was some things going on in my life that were kind of surreal, kind of things that happen, but they don't happen to you. And I certainly would say that the drugs led to me trying to fill in a lot of blanks. But I was at the time scared for my life. I never carried a gun before in my life. I called the police. I started calling the police from my home here. Telling them I was scared for my life about a substance that was found in my room on me and my dog, which later was known to be a lie. I went through 6 phones at the time. They all started getting malware viruses on them and spyware viruses on them. So I became obsessed with my phone, trying to figure out who was doing this. At the time, I felt like I was being followed. My brother had been busted for fentanyl. So I don't know if that had something to do with me being followed. I called the police from Alabama. Once from the motel room, told them that I felt like I had been used as a mule for trafficking drugs. And I felt like there was drugs in my car and I was being followed and I was in fear for my life. They told me that they didn't have a drug dealer on duty and they couldn't take my car apart. I called him again from Alabama. My father spoke with him this time when I called him from the Walmart shopping center. I showed the lady where you get your gas. I couldn't call 911 from my cell phone and that I was scared that I was being followed. The police came there, spoke to my father for a while. Got off the phone with my father, released me to Dusty Kilpatrick's care to go home to see my psychiatrist. Most people in my life at that time are going to tell you that I was crazy. I would tell you that in some sense I was in my right mind, that I was very close to losing my mind, and that I was in fear for my life, whether it was real or not. It was real to me. I feel like in a way with the police, me calling the police many times as I did, I feel like somebody should have helped me along the way, even if I was crazy, maybe it locked me up or, some means to an end besides this. I'm trying to make sure I cover everything here. Recently, when my kids started back to school, I went back to my father's home and saw the conditions of what's going on there. And I feel that it'll be detrimental to my children if I go to prison right now. I have an 11-year-old that's already involved with truancy. I've gotten him an appointment at life management. He has tantrums where he will beat his head against the wall or gets so emotional he can't talk or calm down. We're waiting for a second appointment there now. My dad is 79 years old. He's due for heart surgery. He would be the one to take care of these children. I don't believe that he's able to at this point. He has custody of two of my sons and my nieces as well, my two nieces. When I moved back in, when school started, my niece's mama OD'd on fentanyl in the backyard. My nieces are now left without a mother and a father, and my children will be left without a mother and a father. I'm making a plea today for a suspended sentence for their sake. I've always taken my charges and I do have a criminal record. The first time in my life I considered telling I'm sober and that I could do this probation. And I would ask that you do it for them. I just feel that it'd be detrimental. When I moved back into my father's home, my nieces had dropped out of school and extreme measures I had to go to. One of them is now graduated. She's 19. I worried about what would happen to my children with them not going to school now and it being hard for me, especially how hard it would be on my father. Never carried a gun before in my life. I wasn't a thug riding around trying to get no revenge, or I was scared. When I got the fleeing and looting charge, at that point, I didn't really know who to trust or not trust. So they followed me to Gulf County line. At the point they quit following me, I pulled into Cherry Street, the convenience store there, and I got surrounded and pulled down to the ground. They searched my vehicle. They asked me everything. I told them that I didn't know if it was a cartel. I didn't know. I mean, a lot. If I was to tell you now, you'd say it's crazy. But there's so many little pieces and I was trying to fill in. I told them everything that I thought may or may not be happening. I told them I took the truck without permission. Timothy Harvey's truck is in the courtroom now. They proceeded to put $20 of gas in this truck, put me back in a truck I told them I had without permission, and send me back into Gulf County to meet an officer that never showed up. I really thought that somebody was going to help me then, that we're going to have some of my answers as to why I was being followed or who was following me or who was doing this to my phones or the powdery substance that was in my room, that which later was discovered that was a lie. I guess I've said I'm pleading for a suspended sentence for the sake of my children and my father. Not so much me, I'm done time. I've done time. I just worry about the effects that's going to have on my kids, my 14-year-old and my 11-year-old. And the 11-year-old is the one that's having a lot of problems right now. And he's the one that's got truancy involved with school. My 14-year-old just recently got put out of the ACE program, which I feel partially responsible for because I'm trying so hard to get them to go to school. I wasn't noticing his grades. Very smart child. I want him to have a chance. I want him to have somebody there to motivate him and encourage him to make sure that he has clean clothes for school in the morning. and hygienes when he needs his hygienes, things that my 79-year-old father might not think about, that he would barely want to provide, but he's older and he's fixing to have heart surgery.
At what point during all of this did you begin to care about your children?
I'd say that I would say that when I did a prison sentence, I did a 5-year bid. I had a suspended sentence and I went in and I ended up doing that 5 years. For 2 years, my dad didn't speak to me. I left behind a 5-week-old. And for 2 years, my dad didn't speak to me. And it's the best thing he ever did. Tough love. It made me value my children. After that sentence, I got out. Within a month, my home was raided. And my brother was taken in for selling methamphetamines. I'd only been out of prison from 5 years, suspended sentence for a month. I kind of fell into place of what was going on in the house and the environment. I wouldn't say that I didn't care about my children at the time, but I'm gonna say I didn't straighten my life out. I didn't get clean.
When were you released?
I've been out a few years on that one.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm not saying the drugs came back. I was still involved in my kids' life. I cared, but I was still on drugs. I would say that this time, getting sober this time and almost losing my mind is when I cared. I did 6 months on this charge in the county while I got sober and got on medication to get my mind back right. I realized how much I cared, how much I value their lives and their future, their education, their manners, their values, their morals, things I haven't given them the best shot at, I definitely have led by example what you shouldn't do, more so than what you should do.
You say you're released from prison and when?
On that 5-year prison sentence, how long ago was that?
When were you released?
On this charge, I've been out a year and a half.
No, the prison, the 5-year
I'm
prison
not too
sentence.
sure my mind with pulling back dates like that.
Okay.
It's been a few years.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a 5-year. And by the way, I thank you for the offer. It was no disrespect by not taking that. I do appreciate it greatly. Thank you.
Judge, there was looks like a 2-year sentence, June 06 to June of 08, 3-year sentence from June of 2013 to January 2016. And then the 5-year sentence was from March of 2019 until the release date I show, Judge, is August 14th of 2019.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Skipper?
I can go. But I can do this. I can do this. For the first time in my life, I can sit here without a fear or a thought of not doing probation or drug offender probation or house arrest. Or I value my sobriety. I value my state of mind. Feeling's hard for me, but I really value my children who are here.
You want me to hear from anyone else, ma'am? Not your children.
Would you care to hear from anyone else?
I'll listen to whatever you want me to consider, Ms. Skipper.
Do y'all want to speak?
Not your children.
I know, not my dad's back there. Do you want to speak, Dad? My oldest son is here, James. He's of age. I don't know if you.
All right, good afternoon at this time. How are you doing, sir?
Okay.
You raise your right hand for me.
I do.
Sir, could you tell me your name?
James Larry Skipper.
All right, Mr. Skipper, and what do you want me to consider, sir?
My daughter, she's been a wonderful mother. She's critical to their growth. Critical. I'm doing the best job I can, but I fall short because of my age, I guess. I'm just looking for leniency for her so she could raise her kids like she wants to. She deserves another chance. She really does. I guess that's all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Skipper.
Yes, sir.
And you said you had a child that was of age, and I said I didn't want to hear from the children of 14 and 11-year-old.
James?
All right, good afternoon, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir, would you tell me your name?
James Bailey.
All right, Mr. Bailey, what do you want me to consider, sir?
So obviously she did some wrong, but these past few months that she has been back with us, consistently staying with us, she's been a very positive influence on the kids' outlook in their general life. Like when it comes to getting to school on time, if it's getting breakfast in their bellies, dinner on the table at night, she's been pivotal in all of that. And I think that without her, these kids might even end up facing foster care. If it's up to him, because he can't take care of them.
Yes, sir.
And I know I can't. I'm not going to say I can.
Yes, sir.
So that's just, if you take anything into consideration, consider that it's very important to their future that they have someone there for them.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty much all I can bring to the table. That she is a very loving and caring person. As you can tell, she gets emotionally invested in everything. And that it's just pivotal. Yeah.
All right, Ms. Smith, anything from the state? According to the information, has a charge with actual possession? Okay. And Ms. Skipper, there are certain, sometimes I have discretion, sometimes I don't. And when it comes to sentencing, and one of the areas I do not have discretion is when the legislature has told me to impose a minimum sentence, a mandatory minimum sentence. I don't have the authority to disregard the legislature. I can't do that. And
We can't impose a suspended sentence.
the legislature has told me for your felon in possession of a firearm, and if it's actual possession, that I have to impose a certain sentence.
I thought that I'd done some case studies where I noticed that they had not imposed a sentence where the individual had been out on bond for a certain amount of time, been a productive citizen and working, so they didn't impose the.
That's true. That's true, but not when it comes to a mandatory minimum sentence. If there's a mandatory minimum sentence, it means exactly what it says. You must serve a minimum sentence, and then it's mandatory. It's not discretionary. I don't have authority to do something different. So in case number 22, CF85 and 22 CF96, you'll be adjudicated guilty. In the 22 CF85, that's felon in actual possession of a firearm, ma'am, you'll be sentenced to the mandatory minimum of 36 months in the Florida Department of Corrections. That is a mandatory minimum. And the fleeing or attempting to elude, 22 CF96, you'll be sentenced to 19.1 months in prison.
Your Honor.
And they will run concurrent with one another. And Ms. Tanya, you have a call sheet. Did you ever hand that to them?
There's, even though the guns weren't mine, they were Timothy Harvey's and it was his truck. Is there a way to have that not be actual constructional possession?
I don't have any control over charging. That's up to the state. The state has charged you with actual possession. If you want to withdraw your plea, you can do that, but I can't control.
Why? The title once said one thing, and the language of the body of the information, it said actual or constructive. If I recall correctly, I did advise her that the court would have to make the finding that she was in actual possession before the 3-year min-man applied. And if I misread the information, I apologize.
Yeah, I read that she's previously been convicted of a felony in this case, and then after being convicted, she unlawfully owned or have care, custody, actual possession or control of a firearm. I'll look at the affidavit. But you're right. I have to. That's what the information charges, and I believe the law is I need to make a specific finding. But I'll.
Possession for the notice.
Yes, sir.
That it was
Okay.
that.
You could be found at trial. At trial, you could be found in either. At trial, you could be found in possession of the firearm. The jury would have to determine if it's actual or constructive. And if you go to trial, the 3-year min-man still applies if the jury makes the finding. The maximum penalty is 15 years if you go to trial. So
And to the extent that, do you still want to go forward with your plea, ma'am?
I think about it and come back on the next.
No?
No,
If you want to withdraw it, I'll let you withdraw it now.
but withdrawal, what is it exactly, does that mean withdrawal?
If you want to withdraw your no
I don't want
contest,
to inconvenience the courts. I
you're
know
not
that.
inconveniencing me, ma'am. This is your life.
I know.
This is
So
what I have to
if I
do.
withdraw it, and I come back in, I can still open plea. I mean, that's really my only option, at a trial at this
Or
point,
go,
correct?
or go to trial.
Can I take another week, come back in a week?
I won't be here in
Yeah.
another week. I don't have
Okay.
court. I think you're set for trial. I mean, I've already accepted your plea. I'm not sure what you're asking me.
I'm deciding about the constructive possession or not constructive possession, if I should go with it, just determine whether I was in constructive possession or not, if I should go to trial.
Well, like I told you when I met with you, when it comes to constructive
Yeah.
possession, the fact that you were in the vehicle, the guns were in the vehicle, you were the only one in the vehicle. The evidence is there for, actual possession. You were in the vehicle, you're alone in the vehicle, the guns were right beside you. So there is evidence in the case for a jury to make that finding if they choose to. They could choose not to, but if they make that finding, then the judge is still going to be in the same place he's at right now. The only thing that's happened today is instead of the jury making the finding of actual possession, the judge is finding that you were in actual possession.
And the state's charged with actual possession of a firearm. I read the complaint affidavit. They were right there on the passenger side seat. And actual possession doesn't mean it's actually on your person. They can be within ready reach. So I'm going to find that you're in actual possession of a firearm, but you'll be, okay. In addition to the mandatory cost, ma'am, you have an additional $300 fine, a $20 fine, a $1 fine, $2 fine, and $25 fine, for a total of $1,008 in both cases, and that would be reduced to a civil judgment. And you got 30 days from today to appeal the judgment and sentence of the court. And if you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you.
Judge, I'll give Ms. Knox about her jail credit because she did, when
When
a
should-
prior attorney had the case, she did spend some time in jail. I can't
6
remember.
months.
She's saying 6 months. We'll verify that exact day count. I'll give it to Ms. Knox. And you can apply it to the judgment or the DOC packet.
Okay.
Announcement of the minimum mandatory.
Yes. Yeah, the minimum mandatory, I believe I announced it, but it's 36 months on the felon in possession of a firearm. That's a mandatory minimum sentence, ma'am.
As far as like me trying to get help and calling the police as many times as I did. And as far as like, there was 3 home health checks done. Other people called the police and had them come to my home and check on me. Doesn't that show some grounds for me not being in my right mind? I mean, seems like the officer that arrested me that afternoon is the same officer that was at my house that morning that somebody called to do a home wellness check. And that was happened 3 times in 1 week, where other people were calling concerned. And I had called the law concerned as well, too. It just seems like somewhere along the way, like something could have prevented this from happening when the police didn't help and you know, I was scared.
I think the person that could have prevented it from happening, Ms. Skipper, is you. There are rules, and when you violate the rules, there's consequences.
I understand.
And Judge, I can also put on the record that when I did receive the case, at the time I received the case, prior counsel had filed a notice of intent to rely on insanity without an evaluation. That had been put in place, and then the attorney withdrew. I got the case. It was way past, at the time I got it, it was way past the date of offense. I did some checking into some records I was able to get from the jail. I was not able to find any records that would justify the claim, and also consulted with Ms. Skipper and advised her that trying to do an evaluation that many months post incident would almost, there was no way you could go back that many months later and say what somebody's mental state was that many months back. So, I found no reasonable grounds to move forward with the insanity claim based on the time I got the case and my review of the facts and the evidence in there.
Yes, sir. Well, Ms. Skipper, best of luck to you, man. I'm glad that you're on the right path. And we'll take care of your credit. And when you get out, I hope you stay on that path, man.
Am I able to hug my family or?
That's up to the bailiff.
No, okay.
Unfortunately, her past caught up to her. There are a number of different things that she could have done if she recognized that she was in a paranoid state, if she thought people were following her. She could have checked herself in to any hospital. She could have gone to any hospital and said, I'm having a mental health crisis, instead of getting a gun and riding around in the car with it, because I wouldn't want my family member to possibly drive up next to her, look over, and her think, oh, that person's out to get me, and have her shoot an innocent person on the road. So at the same time, yeah, I feel for her, but it was all her own doing, and she could have easily checked herself in to any hospital. She could have not committed the felonies to begin with. And if she was on drugs when this happened, she could have not taken those drugs. So anyway, that's how I feel. I feel bad that she's going to jail, but at the same time, it's deserved. So thank you all very much for watching. And as always, I'll see you next time.